All right, welcome back, everyone. My name is Nigel Schroeter, and today I'm here to give you guys some more quick credit tips and information. Specifically, today we're talking about the backdoor method with Navy Federal Credit Union and how it is closing and what you need to do now that the backdoor methods are closing. So, previously, you were able to get into Navy Federal Credit Union with quite a few different backdoor methods. You could state that you lived with someone that you didn't live with who was a member. You could just call in and you could say, hey, I had a grandparent or this person or that was in the military. And, I'd like to join based off of that. And you had some people who would open you an account, and then you could also get someone's access code and put that you were a sibling and join. Now, Navy Federal, of course, with them seeing people's videos all over the internet talking about how you could sneak your way into Navy Federal, on top of people joining the credit union and then misusing the accounts, they're starting to crack down on these misuses of their accounts. So what they're doing now is they're now requesting documents to verify things. All right. So they're requesting, if you say this or say that you have some type of proof or documentation for it. So, okay, my grandfather was in the military. Where's the DD 214? Contact the archives first before you contact us. We want that type of documentation to prove that you actually had someone who was in the military that's eligible. What they're also doing is, sometimes they'll allow you to go ahead and open the account. And then you're thinking everything's good. You put your money in the account. You might open up a credit card or open up a loan. Maybe you try the secured loan hack, whatever it is. All right. And then the next thing you know, all your accounts are frozen. And the only thing that it will allow you to do is to use the money in your account to pay off any outstanding debt that you have, or, go to the bank and make payments on the account, but it won't allow you to, take any money out of the account or do anything like that. It just freezes the account up until you show those verifying documents. Otherwise, they'll go right back and close the account. All right. Another thing that they're doing now is they're going back and auditing a lot of accounts. So by them auditing these accounts, they're reviewing these old accounts, they're freezing them, and they're saying, hey, well, you joined. You said that you're going to give us this documentation, or you didn't have it then, but you're going to get it. Where's it at now? We need it. We haven't seen it. Where's the documentation? All right. So it's very important that you know what is triggering these things first and foremost to get you in a situation of even being audited, or, having to provide documents, as well as, the consequences and what you should be doing to get out of this situation. So first things first, what's triggering these? Of course, like I said, we have people joining into Navy Federal, and they're joining into Navy Federal, and they're watching all these videos on how to get in and backdoor method and this and that. So now when these people get into the credit union, they're misrepresenting the members. Scamming started going up with Navy Federal. The ability for people to get credit started going down because now all these people are in the credit union who aren't actually military families. So they're taking up, funds that could be going to actual military families. There's so many other things, and just overall misuse of the funds and misuse of the accounts that started to trigger Navy Federal really cracking down heavier. So now, what are they cracking down on? For one, new accounts. Of course, anyone who's trying to get in now, it's going to be harder for you to get in. I'm not going to say that all the back doors are completely sealed and there's no way in, but what I'm saying is it's going to be harder if you're trying to get in utilizing the backdoor method, which is why I never recommend it. Also, I never recommend backdoor methods because once you get caught, it is potentially a criminal crime, that is considered fraud, and it could potentially have you charged with, high level misdemeanors or felonies, and it's a federal crime because it's a credit union, and you're utilizing loan applications and all these other things that you had to lie to be able to apply for. Now, besides new accounts, what's triggering this? Name and address discrepancies. All right. If your name is, John Smith, and your sister's name, is, Mary Lopez, not to say that it's not possible. However, it raises a lot higher of a red flag. Now, I know for some of us, like myself, I don't have the same last name as any of my siblings. Not a single one of my siblings has the same last name. My mother doesn't have the same last name as me. I do have the same last name as my father, but, he doesn't have the same last name as his biological father, or grandfather, et cetera, et cetera. So it definitely can be quite challenging in that instance if you're someone, especially if you have a large family and your family members don't have the same last name. Now, also, with that being said, I've seen this happen with people, and even sometimes with legitimate roommates. Address discrepancies. Say you're in college, right? And you apply to allow you give your roommate your access code to apply, and you're sponsoring them in as a roommate, right? But you're in college. So maybe your roommate's from another state, or maybe they still have their licenses back at home. They don't have their license as where you currently live. So Navy Federal audits them, and then now, what does it say? Oh, well, this person lives in Kansas on their ID, but you're stating that they live with you in Florida, So you can have those type of discrepancies, and it doesn't even necessarily mean that, the person doesn't legitimately live with you, or they're not, legitimately your sibling because they have a different name, but it, of course, can raise a red flag. Another thing, of course, is frequent sponsorships. So if you're always sponsoring someone, Navy Federal is not going to believe you have 50 roommates, and if you do, you probably, have had, a lot of cycling of roommates and things like that. So what are the quality of these people that you're sponsoring into the credit union? And are you the problem or are they the problem? Either way, of course, Navy Federal is going to kind of raise a red flag to, okay, why do you have so many people you're sponsoring in? Same thing with siblings. Now, I know for myself, my father biologically has a lot of siblings. On his maternal side, he has, I believe, 5, and on his paternal side, there's like 20 of them. So it would seem quite odd for someone to sponsor in 25 siblings. But when you're able to actually, provide documentation and show birth certificates or things like that, and see that, hey, these people are my siblings, then of course they're not going to bother you about that anymore. But initially it can be quite hard when you are someone who may have a large family. I had a guy call me one time, and he had, I believe it was 13 children. He's like, is it possible for me to sponsor in all 13? And I said, yes, it's actually completely possible. I said, but at a certain point, they're going to start asking you for birth certificates, because once you've sponsored in so many, they're going to say, wait, hold up. How many children do you really have? And then, of course, all of his children didn't have the same name. Some of them had their mother's last name, et cetera, et cetera. So I told him, I said, you can do it. I'm just letting you know it could be extremely tiresome going through that process with all that paperwork. Now, another thing, poor account management. All right. Number 4, people get these accounts and then they decide they want to go crazy. They want to cash out. They get a Navy Federal account and they see that they have, a $10,000 limit, $25,000 limit, and they just go and run the card straight up. They don't manage any of their accounts correctly. They're not keeping any money in their checking account. Banks don't like that stuff. When banks see that you're sponsoring in people and they have poor account management, they're going to start to audit them because they want any reason to get them out. That's just the truth and the reality to it. Any financial institution will do that. So once again, you don't want to sponsor people if you know that they poorly manage their finances. Now, number 5, my last real trigger, frequent address changes. So people will go about changing their addresses constantly, all right, so that they can sponsor different people in. So they'll say, oh, well, I moved from here to here to here to here. And it's the same type of concept like I was talking before. If you have so many roommates over a certain period of time, then the bank's going to start to wonder and question what's going on and why are you moving so frequently, and why is it that you have, this pattern of moving or things like that, or it's extremely irregular. The banks are going to wonder what's going on. Now, if you can prove that you've lived at all those different addresses and all those different things, that's one thing. But if you can't and you don't have the documentation, it can be extremely tiresome, trying to prove it, as well as you're going to end up with your account frozen. Now, what should you do if any of this is happening? Now, if you're someone who's legitimately into the credit union and you have the documentation to prove it, you shouldn't be worried. Now, if you're someone who tried to sneak in doing one of the backdoor methods that we've told you countless times not to do, the best thing that you can do is before your account gets audited, go ahead and start making sure that you don't have funds or anything in those accounts that would cause you any detriment if you were to lose, because they freeze them, you're going to lose them. Make sure that you're paying all your bills and stuff on time, as well as keeping low balances, because once again, it keeps you away from being triggered, just as well as do not try to just get the card, swipe it up and run, because you will obviously get triggered and you will potentially end up in a situation dealing with litigation, which you don't want to. And of course, the thing that I always tell you guys is just look for a different institution and go to a different institution rather than trying to sneak into one. There's so many different financial institutions out there, large banks, regional banks, credit unions, all these different places that you can go to that are welcoming you in, wanting you to come, offering sign-up bonuses and all these things. Why try to sneak in somewhere you're not wanted, and then once you do, of course, you're a lot more secure and a lot more safe, because just in the event of, financial hardship, it would be a lot harder to come back from a situation where you've been involved in litigation, potentially sued, potential jail time, potential criminal record, and all these different things for a hiccup, even if you're not someone who poorly manages your account. So with that being said, as always, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for being a part of the family. And of course, we will see you all in the next video. Please don't forget to like this video, comment on this video, share this video out with others who will benefit from it, and most importantly, subscribe so that you can get more content just like this.